And so, for example, LeBron James, if Bronny, gets caught dealing crack, which I don't think he will, he's going to have the best lawyer on the planet representing him that will be filing motions for dismissal, cross-examination of evidence, all sorts of different things. So it's less about race, isn't it? I mean, if Denzel Washington kids or Oprah's God kids did that, it's more about really a wealth problem, right? So then you'd say, well, it's because of racism. Well, no, it's not. Blaming wealth inequality between races, which I don't like doing, but if you want to play that game strictly on racism, is a sloppy way to look at things. So the perspective we have is a perspective of Thomas Sowell, which is you look at the whole body of work, you'll see that just because you have disparate outcomes does not mean you could solely blame discrimination. And I'll prove it.
Hi guys, my name is Favor.
Hi, my name is Nasima.
And today we'll be checking out a video together where Charlie causes a liberal meltdown. So without wasting much time, let's get right into the video.
Hey Charlie, thanks for coming. I want to ask a question about racism. I know you've argued that systemic racism in the U.S. doesn't exist. I wanted to point out some answers I think that's obviously wrong and see what you think about it. So just starting with the issue of crime, we know for a fact, because it's been studied pretty extensively, black people and people who aren't black or white people use drugs, commit nonviolent drug offenses at pretty much the same rates. Black people get arrested for these crimes about, I think, 2 to 3 times more often. It's dropping now that we've legalized weed in more and more states, which is a great thing that we've done. Even if you say that police are doing that not on purpose, but because they're just in areas where more violent crime is committed and they're patrolling, isn't that an obvious example of something that black people have to deal with in this country that's much worse off for them than non-black people?
Okay. No, but any other point you want to make about systemic racism? So let me ask you a question. You believe there's systemic racism?
Just I would say that there's a lot of shit that black people have to deal with that makes them worse off in the country.
Okay, such as having to be around police all the time?
Yeah, because if you're around police, not because police, but because we have this, I think, shitty law that you're going to get arrested for committing a nonviolent drug crime. So as an extension of that, you're around police more often. You're more likely to be arrested for that crime.
So look, here's the thing. So in 2018, blacks made up 53% of all the homicide offenders in America.
Yeah, that's
No one wants to say it out loud, but blacks commit more crimes than whites and Asians and Hispanics. In fact, there's a disproportionate amount of crime committed by blacks in America. And so therefore, you're going to have a heavier police presence. And so why is that happening? I believe there's a fatherless epidemic happening in America. And I really don't have a soft spot for the argument hey, there's too many police around, therefore I can't deal crack without being interrupted. Not exactly very compelling to me, okay? Now, secondly, let me say this though, is that there are issues, if you want to just talk strictly racial, that are disproportionately affecting white America, such as opioids and fentanyl. Not to say that blacks are not affected by this, but it is a disproportionate rural issue. Now, why would that be? Well, white individuals, because of the industrial kind of growth in America, were more likely to get involved in muscular trades in Ohio and Pennsylvania, especially in steel mill towns and such. Therefore, they'd be more likely to get injured at work. So you get likely to get injured at work because of the Sackler family, which you and I could probably agree are a bunch of criminals who should be put in prison for a long period of time. They started to overprescribe Oxycontin, into the communities, and therefore getting these people addicted to the high of an opioid and then searching for other places to go there. So we could play these kind of racial games all the time. Is it fair for someone in Southeast Ohio who's white, who was a son of a steel mill worker, and all these things, that they might have been more exposed to this sort of thing? I think that the hyper-racialization of all that is less important than the real, more fundamental question, which is, why does race matter in any of this? And I say it doesn't. I don't like looking at people through a racial lens. If you want to do that, which I said, the statistics are not good at all. In fact, it shows that there's an under-policing problem in black neighborhoods across America. In fact, 50% of homicides go unsolved in Chicago, 50%, because of lack of detectives and lack of police in a lot of these areas. And kind of for your daily thought crime, police prevent crime, and they did prevent crime in New York City. New York City was one of the most dangerous, murderous cities in the 1980s and early 1990s, and someone who I think is unnecessarily mocked and smeared, Rudy Giuliani, became mayor and cleaned up that entire city. And to his credit, liberal Democrat who ran for president, Mike Bloomberg, continued those policies. And so, look, any thoughts on that really quick, because I want to get some other questions, but...
Yeah, I think I wasn't disagreeing at all that police do a lot of great work. The only problem with that is that it is a true fact that a factual extension of the fact that police are in certain areas more often means that if society has shitty laws, those shitty laws are going to be enforced more often. I think most people in this room
I don't
probably
think
agree.
I
It's
don't
like
think a
70%.
law against okay, sorry to interrupt, but I don't think a law against dealing crack is a bad law.
Okay, but what about
I
weed?
don't think so too.
What about weed? I think
The same applies for weed. You're much more likely to get arrested, and even if this isn't happening as much now, it happened much more often in the past. You're much more likely to get arrested.
So
for
there's
smoking
been
weed
plenty of
no matter
studies
what.
done by Harvard and Maryland showing there was actually an under-policing problem in a lot of these communities. You and I could do statistics all day long because I'm sure that there's plenty that you could cite. But first of all, I'm not a fan of legalizing marijuana. I think it's a really bad idea. But I can probably agree with you that there is a problem with locking people in prison for an extended period of time for using marijuana. But there's another more fundamental question, which is this, which is you can get into sentencing, right, which is usually kind of a talking point, which is that the most important thing when it comes to your likelihood of going to jail if you commit a crime is less about your skin color and more about your wealth and how competent of a counsel you can hire, right? And so, for example, LeBron James, if Bronny, gets caught dealing crack, which I don't think he will, he's going to have the best lawyer on the planet representing him that will be filing motions for dismissal, cross-examination of evidence, all sorts of different things. So it's less about race, isn't it? I mean, if Denzel Washington kids or Oprah's God kids did that, it's more about really a wealth problem, right? So then you'd say, well, it's because of racism. Well, no, it's not. Blaming wealth inequality between races, which I don't like doing, but if you want to play that game strictly on racism, is a sloppy way to look at things. So the perspective we have is a perspective of Thomas Sowell, which is you look at the whole body of work, you'll see that just because you have disparate outcomes does not mean you could solely blame discrimination. And I'll prove it to you with one data point, and then we'll move on, which is this, which is that you can have different data points that have outcomes, and there's other factors that play in. So, for example, San Francisco and New York are far wealthier than Missoula, Montana, and Birmingham, Alabama. Why? Someone would say, racism. Well, no, it's not. Mountain towns and inland cities are just less likely to be around commerce and trade. And port cities, by definition, are always wealthier. That has nothing to do with race and everything to do with geography. So what does that example have to do? Sometimes you can have disparate outcomes with data, and attributing racism to it is actually not just imprudent, it's really, really detrimental and harmful. So one thing that I would agree with that we need to do, put fathers back into the home, which is very, very important. In 1965, marriage rates in the black community were about 80%. Now it's plummeted down to 20 to 25%. There's a lot of reasons for this, subsidizing single motherhood through the Great Society and many other things. But there's other factors that play in. How many words is a child hearing at home? Is the child getting read to on a daily or weekly basis by parents? Those things transcend race. And in fact, the hyperfixation on kind of systemic racism, I think, kind of creates a smokescreen that disallows us from actually finding meaningful solution to these problems. So thank you. We got to get to the next question. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What he said was right, which is put fathers back in the home. Like I said one time, if we don't have fathers in the home, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult for a single woman to take care of the kids. She might be able to take care of them health-wise and everything. But when it comes to morals, when it comes to being responsible, when it comes to being disciplined, it is not really the woman's duty. It's more of a man's duty to do so. And also, he's right as well. When it comes to crime rates, use of illegal drugs, illegal use of ammunition, it's mostly the blacks that do them. So we should not really translate everything to racism first. We should first understand the concept of what is happening. Let's try to know if truly this person deserves this kind of sentence before we can, define it as racism or just a crime committed by a person. Let's stop with the whole, oh, it's because it's a black person, that is why, oh, it's because it's a. I feel like if it is because of due to the high rate of crime happening in America by the blacks, that is why a lot of police officers tend to, have their gear up the moment they see a black person walking in a suspicious way. Although it's not fair, it's not, but we can't really blame them. We can't really blame. Oh, what do you think?
Okay, so I totally agree with what Nasima said when she said when she was talking about, the blacks and how crime rates are actually, more among black Americans. Now, if we even check statistics, right, the amount of crime rates among blacks is way higher than, the white, Hispanic, Asians, and all of that. And then to think about it, blacks are not even as much as these other, people in the US, right? So it's actually true that the rate of crime is actually very high amongst them. And so I feel like it is very normal for police to tend to be, hyperactive when it relates to a black person, because I feel like what they are thinking next is, oh, this person may actually commit a crime, because that is what is seen among this set of people. So I would not really blame them, although they should not now use that as an avenue to just, try to forcefully exert force on the blacks, right? But I don't think I would blame them for that. So I don't think it's a matter of over policing. I feel like they're just doing their job. And like Charlie said, I feel like if a poor black person is caught using marijuana and is picked up, and a rich person is also caught and is picked up, they would both be picked up, right? So it now depends on the kind of lawyer that you can afford to actually stand for you and, defend you. And that will actually determine what kind of charge you will get. If you get a very good person, obviously, your sentence will be less. So I feel like it's not about race. It's not really about racism right now, but it's about what is actually happening and using that as a form of, it's just, I don't know, it just comes to mind that, if a black person is here, there's a high probability that this person might want to commit a crime. So let's look out for this person. So that's what I feel about, this topic.
I think what is happening is that from the beginning of time, whites have always been scared. Even during slavery, whites have always been scared of blacks because we are more stronger. We appear sometimes to be more threatening, more intimidating. So because of that, they try to, before we can even try to even act or something or get up, they tend to quickly use force to cramp us down. And because of that, that was one of the things that gave birth to the Black movement in America. And due to that, although the police are doing their jobs, but I feel like the blacks should be treated the way whites are also treated. We should stop with the whole thing of because he's black, it's more because of the crime rate is much in America, and because of I'm black, it means that definitely I have a hand in this, or definitely I'm doing this one illegal stuff or the other. But if they catch me as a black person with maybe cocaine and they catch a white person with cocaine as well, they should not suspect me first because I'm a black person. They should suspect the both of us because we are both taking the cocaine. They should sentence us and treat us the same way. If it is to arrest us with force, let it be together. We shouldn't be treated with more aggression and more unjust acts because of we're blacks. I feel like that is what the student is talking about, is trying to convey. And Charlie Kirk is trying to explain that the police are just doing their jobs. They just want to make sure that everything is fine. And due to the high crime rate in America by blacks, that is what is making them to project that fear into every black person. As of now, even a 14 years old in America that is black, is not safe. A police could just literally pick them up because they look like a suspected criminal. So it's not really about what the student thinks, it's more about what he feels. And I feel like Charlie Kirk is talking about the reality, but because of we're blacks, we know how it feels, we know what we go through. But anyways, okay,
so I think I totally get your point of view. They've actually been stories of blacks that didn't do anything, but they got hit, and that's actually true. But I also feel like if the crime rates among blacks are reduced, there won't be this whole story of, over policing or police just going out of hand and all of that. So I feel like like you said before, you also said before that if more fathers are present, right? So I feel like actually that will go a long way and just reduce it drastically.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's what
Because
I think.
a lot of blacks these days, it's because of the absence of father in the household. You could see a black kid trying to sell drugs, trying to join gangs, trying to,
It's very
you know,
rampant.
because they want to have some little money, and also because all kinds of nasty gangs will be after these kids because they are young, beat them up, stab them, and all of that. It forces these kids to be tough and tough in the wrong way, actually, so they can have that strength to fight these gangs off. And most of the time, they end up joining these gangs. If you've watched this movie, I think Power, you would understand what I'm talking about more. It's more of a thing of we blacks like to use our strength to intimidate ourselves, to try to force our young ones to join our illegal business or our bad acts, and that is one of the things that is increasing the crime. I feel like the blacks should also involve themselves in industrial work more, so that they can not get profiled as a criminal immediately they are cited. But that or
so this is what we think about this particular video we've watched. I know you watched it with us, so we'd like to know what you think in the comment section. And please don't forget to like, subscribe to this channel, and also follow, share with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.